Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Splatt. Today is video number 3 in our series of 20 reviewing the English Premier League season 2011-2012. Today, our third team, alphabetically, Blackburn Rovers. So, how did the season go for Rovers? Well, they were relegated, that's right. We'd hit the first of our relegated teams, of course 3 teams going down each season in the Premier League, and Blackburn Rovers went down in 19th position. Oh dear, I'm going to say straight up that their overall mark for the season was an F, for failure. And it's pretty hard to not give an F to relegated teams. And Blackburn in the preview video, which was up 10 months ago, which you can see if you just Google it or put it in the bar or whatever, Daily Splatt Blackburn preview thing. It didn't look like they were going to have a great season 10 months ago. Obviously, Steve Keane had replaced Sam Allardyce halfway through the previous season and steered them from 10th to, I believe it was 16th they finished up. And it certainly was not a very good second half of the season for Rovers. That said, they did actually pick up more points under Keane than they did under Allardyce. In that same season, but Keane did have an extra 4 games on his predecessor. So, new season comes in, and who comes in to Blackburn Rovers? Well, ultimately, not very many people. Yakubu coming in was certainly a big plus, and he ended up having quite the season, actually. Of course, released from Everton, where he'd been largely ineffective, he became one of the top scorers in the league this season, getting plenty of goals for Rovers, and pretty much trying to fight by himself to keep them in the league. There were games when he was just unplayable. He was absolutely fantastic, but sadly, one player does a team not make. The rest of the team, of course, slowly just sort of disintegrated as the season went on. Obviously, they'd lost Phil Jones prior to the season. He was seen as one of their bright young prospects. And so he went, and then, of course, in the transfer window, in the January transfer window, I think is what I'm trying to say, they lost Christopher Samba, who went over to Anzi Markachkala, and he decided to, jump ship. And then you've had Ryan Nelson, another defensive stalwart. He went off and joined Tottenham Hotspur, rather unusually. But so Blackburn were left bereft at the back. Of course, Brett Emerton leaving to come back to Australia meant that they lacked a little bit of midfield guile, and quite frankly, the players that were left over just didn't play well enough. Paul Robinson, bless him, tried his best in nets, and there was promising performances from both the Olsen twins and, of course, Junior Hoylett, who will no doubt be playing in the Premier League next season, unlike the rest of Blackburn Rovers the rest of his Blackburn Rovers teammates, because he looks like a tasty prospect. But quite simply, this team were not very well managed. With 9 games to go in the season, Blackburn Rovers were fighting against relegation, and they needed somebody with a steady hand and good managerial experience to guide them through the occasional tricky match, obviously games against Manchester United and Arsenal, but there were winnable games in there. In those final 9 fixtures, Blackburn Rovers won 1 game and lost 8. Not good enough. It was absolutely not good enough at all, and they were relegated on the second to last day of the season, when they were beaten by Wigan 1-0 at Ewood Park. So Blackburn going back to the Championship after 11 years in the top flight. Quite frankly, a lot of people tend to say relegation is a good thing for teams. You can look at Newcastle United, who just sort of weren't doing very well. They got relegated, came back up, and look at them now, finishing 5th and genuinely looking fantastic. And obviously West Ham fans will be hoping their 1-year absence from the top division will have improved them as they come back up under Sam Allardyce, funnily enough. I don't think the same thing's going to happen for Blackburn Rovers, because I just can't see the Venkies running a club that's successful. And I'll be honest, I'd be very surprised if Steve Keane's still there. Even though they haven't necessarily supported him, but they haven't sacked him. I'd be very surprised if he's kept. But they might be forced to. Who's going to go into Blackburn Rovers and take over when you've got these absolutely crazy owners in there? The Venkies just don't seem to know anything about football. And it is really sad to see Blackburn going down like this. Because, they have, for, the last 11 years, been an established part of the Premier League. They're one of only 5 teams to have won the Premier League in its 20-year history. So they are, an important club in the history of the Premier League. They were the first team that weren't Manchester United to win it. But they're gone, and they're going to have to fight their way back. Whether they will or not, well, I've already said I don't think they will, not immediately anyway. But yeah, a big fat F, I'm afraid, for Blackburn Rovers, who just couldn't pull it together. There were too many disruptions off the field, too many players abandoned ship halfway through the season, and some promising young talents just couldn't quite do what was needed to stay up. They weren't far off, but sadly, they've still gone down. So I predicted they'd finish 16th. I thought it'd be another season of struggle. Turns out I was right, but I didn't think they'd struggle this much. That said, it's mostly because I didn't think Swansea and Norwich would do as well. Because I think I had them both down as being relegated. Of course, I was wrong there. So Blackburn are gone. C'est la vie, que sera. Yeah, c'est la vie was the wrong things to say, I think. Yeah, que sera, sera. And best of luck, Blackburn, in the Championship. Hopefully you can form yourself into another good, strong team unit and fight your way back up into the Premier League. But until then, it's going to have to be the second division. So, that's it. Blackburn Rovers, done and dusted. Tomorrow we'll move on to a much happier story with Bolton Wanderers. Sadly, it is another relegated team that we'll be discussing. But make sure that you stay tuned for that, and we'll speak to you tomorrow. Okay, until then, bye-bye.